This week we chat with Australia's first ever independent video game publisher, Surprise Attack. Chad spends some time with Saints Row 4 to find out what all the fuss is about. Mike sends shivers down our spine with a look at Slender the Arrival. And Jimmy the Geek catches up with Jordan from Axis of Awesome, found stalking the halls at PAX Australia. This is Player Attack. But first, the latest gaming news, and we are back with the Australian Classification Board again for what is hopefully the end of a lengthy chapter. Saints Row 4 has finally been approved for release down under, but it is a modified version. Shaundi's loyalty mission has been cut, and those 20 minutes of gameplay must have been something special. The new Australian edition of the game has been granted an MA15 Plus rating and is back on track to launch later this month. But there is another catch. The removal of the mission does take out the reference to alien narcotics, but it also obviously takes out a chunk of gameplay. And even though it's pretty small in the scheme of things, it does mean that the Australian edition of Saints Row 4 will not be multiplayer compatible with versions of the game sold overseas. At least they told us, though. It has been 2 months since The Last of Us hits PS3s around the world, and Naughty Dog has only this week confirmed that yes, the European version of the game, which is the one released in Australia, was censored prior to release and contains much less blood and gore than its North American counterpart. In other happier news, Grand Theft Auto 5 has also skated through the classification process, gaining itself an R18 rating. This means Australians will be joining Trevor, Michael and Franklin on console in September. And now that all of that is out of the way, it is time to look to the future. Specifically, Gamescom, which kicks off in Cologne, Germany on August 20th. There are always plenty of rumours and speculation about what might be revealed at this sort of show, but this year the publishers are dropping hints themselves. One of the more obscure ones is L4D3.ru, which seems to be heralding the arrival of Left 4 Dead 3 on the first day of the convention, even though Valve remains tight-lipped on the topic. 2K Games, on the other hand, is promising anyone who'll listen a big announcement about the future of XCOM, after XCOM Enemy Within was accidentally revealed by the Korean ratings board. Similarly, Blizzard is preparing for a special announcement, which is sure to capture the attention of the heavens, burning hells, and all the shadowed places that lie between. If that phrase from the invitation is giving you a Diablo vibe, you're not alone. Blizzard is also making headlines by seemingly backflipping on something we all thought was an inevitable part of the studio's upcoming major project, codenamed Titan. Company president Mike Morhaime revealed in an earnings call that the game is now unlikely to be a subscription-based MMORPG, as the team selects a new direction for the project. This has presented fans with an unusual situation. Yay, no subscriptions. Boo, if they're still making major changes like that, a big reveal at BlizzCon in November is seeming really unlikely. Other things that are still a while away, Wolfenstein: The New Order has just been delayed for the incredibly vague timeframe of 2014, as Machine Games discovers that making a game with story elements, narrative, stealth sections, and shooter mechanics is more complicated than making a straight-up FPS. Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics haven't even gotten that far, simply confirming that a next-generation sequel for this year's Tomb Raider reboot is well into development. With all that said, if you are a Mac gamer, you won't have to wait long for 2 impressive major releases. Both BioShock Infinite and the long-delayed SimCity are headed to Apple machines this month. Excitingly, if you have purchased SimCity on PC already, or if you intend to, you will snag the Mac version as a bonus. Yes, cross-platform city building is completely possible, and you can access your cities from any computer regardless of which operating system you're running. Meanwhile, Bethesda wants to make sure that PC gamers are good and ready for the release of The Elder Scrolls Online next year, so it's rolled up all of the PC games of the franchise into one handy pack. You will be able to pick up The Elder Scrolls Anthology as early as next month. The anthology contains all 5 critically acclaimed games, that is Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, plus the official add-ons, plus 5 physical maps for you to stick up around your room. If you want your very own anthology, hop on the pre-orders right now, otherwise you just might miss out when the game finally arrives. And lastly this week, while parents will typically tell you that playing video games is bad for your health, there is one 10-year-old boy in Colorado who has probably just earned himself a few nag-free hours. Griffin Sanders says that it was quick thinking and skills he'd learned playing Mario Kart that saved his family's life. Griffin's great-grandmother Darlene suffered a suspected heart attack while driving to visit relatives. Realising that the car was travelling at 60 miles per hour and veering into oncoming traffic, Griffin grabbed the wheel and steered the car into a mud-filled ditch alongside the road, which slowed the vehicle to a stop. Griffin and his 4-year-old brother were unharmed, while great-grandmother Darlene was airlifted to hospital after passers-by called 911. All we can think was thank goodness Griffin loved Mario Kart and not, say, Carmageddon. For more details and to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
Saints Row 4. If you haven't heard this name, you've not been keeping up with the gaming news. In June, this new offering from developers Volition was refused classification by the Australian Classification Board, meaning that it was deemed inappropriate for the Australian market, even with the new R18+ rating. This sent the internet into a minor meltdown, and we've since seen an appeal against the ruling denied, and then a final edited version approved for the Australian market at an MA 15+ rating. The issue? A weapon that was deemed unsuitable, as well as an alien narcotic within the game which was either necessary for success or conferred major gameplay advantages. These are elements that, under the guideline, allow a game to be refused classification, and like it or not, these are the guidelines. The controversy has certainly been loud and reminds us of the heady days of the R18 debate. This is all interesting, but Saints Row 4 will probably not bring many surprises for players who are familiar with the franchise. This is probably because it was originally developed as DLC for Saints Row the Third, and was then promoted to a full title when Deep Silver bought the IP from the now defunct THQ. Saints Row basically parodies the open world formula we see in the likes of Grand Theft Auto. It started out as a rags to riches gangster story with plenty of tongue-in-cheek, and has now degenerated into just about the craziest schlock-fest imaginable. It's like a B-grade film on steroids. The Third Street Saints, our protagonist gang bedecked in purple, have now occupied the White House. Yes, the leader of the Saints, you, is now the President of the United States of America. Cue the irreverence. At E3 we played the opening scenes of the game, and there were plenty of outlandish jokes made at the expense of esteemed political institutions. Think The West Wing meets Team America with a dash of Tupac, and you might get my drift. The story goes that Earth has been invaded by an evil would-be alien overlord, the Zin, and the opening sequences deliver some impressive Independence Day style cinematics. The President instantly develops a hatred for the alien leader, and their testosterone-fueled battle gives a hint of things to come. Soon the President is taken prisoner inside an alternate reality version of Steelport designed to break his spirit, and he's tasked with breaking out and defeating the aliens. The point is that being in this alternate reality allows him to develop special powers, so it's basically the Matrix as well. If it sounds derivative, it kind of is. And puerile, and probably not very funny to some. But some of the superpowers come with real gameplay innovations that bring a breath of fresh air to the Saints Row formula. A speed dash, super jump and gliding ability means that getting across that map is easier than ever, and doesn't require any continual carjacking. It's as simple as leaping tall buildings in a single bound. Telekinesis allows you to mind throw cars at your enemies. A freeze bolt literally freezes them in their tracks, ripe for shattering, and a fire burn skill turns you into Human Torch, incinerating anyone in your path. We also have a few new weapons, such as the much lauded Wub Wub gun, which eliminates your enemies through the awesome power of dubstep. These potentially overpowered abilities and weapons will be offset by a new brute class of enemy to provide a little more challenge. New challenges require you to throw cars, enemies and pedestrians through different coloured rings, and we can expect a whole new bevy of customisation options, as per the Saints Row formula. That's about it really, there's not much more to it. If you know and love Saints Row, you'll probably lap up more of the same with some minor narrative and gameplay twists. If you hate the idea of Saints Row, and I know there's a lot of you out there, this probably won't convert you. For myself, I love the series. It's just stupid fun, and it doesn't try to be anything else. There is one very interesting thing this game does. By turning its satirical edge towards the White House, it's taking on a harder target than the usual brain-dead street thugs. And I may even be able to squeeze some political comment out of Saints Row 4. But I won't try too hard because that's not really what it's about.
Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen from Player Attack. I'm here at PAX Australia with Chris Wright from Surprise Attack, which is Australia's first independent games publisher. Congratulations, that must be such an honour for you.
It's fantastic. It's been about 2 years in the making. But yeah, so great to finally be out and be public and to be publishing.
It's so great. Can you tell us a little bit about where the idea came from and how you worked, what happened 2 years ago that made you decide you wanted to be here today?
Sure. So 2 years ago I was working at THQ. I spent about 7 years there, and the job that I was doing at the time was marketing director for their 2 Australian studios. We had about 200 people in Brisbane and Melbourne. And then they decided to shut down the studio. It's about 2 years like now, right? And we're starting a lot of meetings going like, what the hell are we going to do? Can we save the studio? Can we form a new studio? What's the future going to be? And I'm starting to think, well, I'm the marketing guy. Like, the path for developers is relatively easy. It's like, go get another job or start your own little indie studio. But what am I going to do? I really want to keep working with developers and not go back to sort of the publishing office. How can I do that? How can I go indie? So I start coming up with ideas around that, and I'm like, okay, surely there's got to be a different way to publish with indies. What would an indie publisher look like? And it sort of came to me one day, well, it would look like indie record labels look like for music, right? We've had those for decades, really big part of the music scene. All the music I grew up listening to was on indie labels. I'll do that. And it's taken 2 years, but we're finally here. We've grown to 10 people, we've worked with almost 50 studios along the way, launched a lot of games, and now we're ready to launch our label, Surprise Attack Games, and sort of take it to the next level. The first game to come out is Particulars from a Sydney-based studio called See Through Studios, and that's available right now to buy in alpha form, and we're expecting the full version of the first chapter essentially to come out around October time on PC, Mac and Linux, and eventually tablets. And they're going to keep adding more levels, more chapters to the game. It's sort of a minimalist action puzzle game where the player is a young scientist who's fed up with the pressures of the world, and in the kind of like Alice in Wonderland meets Tron, she becomes a subatomic quark.
You are here, in subatomic space. Here you are still small as anything can be, in fact. But here, you are important.
The basic gameplay is all based around forces of different particles interacting. The player takes the role of a single quark, and there are other particles in each level that are either pushing or pulling at you based on their charge. So you're constantly having to adjust your movement to cope with the different forces at play.
Then we've got Wolf Dozer, which is from the Melbourne team, Anomalous Interactive, and it's kind of like, basically it's the story of the 3 little pigs retold through like the lens of GTA. So you play the big bad wolf. It's a pixel game, top-down game, and you have to basically use your bulldozer to destroy Pigsville. And you have to destroy as much of the city as possible before the cops take you down. And obviously the more you destroy, the more cops come at you, SWAT vans, tanks, helicopters, and then on your next go, you upgrade your wolf dozer and go at it again.
There was a man in the States somewhere who decided to build himself what we call a killdozer. He cemented himself inside of a bulldozer and then proceeded to rampage through his local town, destroying warehouses, the courthouse, police station, and all other government facilities who he had a vendetta against before he was finally stopped.
And finally, Burden, which is probably the most ambitious game we're working on right now.
So the idea of the game is you need to build devices directly onto the giants you're trying to protect while they're moving through the landscapes. So they're a moving battlefield. And yeah, so the whole idea is Shadow of the Colossus meets a tower defense game.
It was very much about realizing that you have a certain amount of time in your career and you can either do well-paid work or whatever, or you can do remarkable work. And I made the decision that, well, I want to do remarkable work. I want to do stuff that is like makes a difference, and how can I lend my skills, I guess, to this amazing stuff that was going on with indie game dev. So that carries you through, I guess, that journey of not knowing exactly what's going on and how you're going to make money from day to day. but it's such an amazing feeling, and now I don't feel like I could do anything else because this is my life.
Hey,
We're the Proto-Men,
Proto-Men.
international time-traveling superstars
Yes.
from America.
USA.
And you're watching Player Attack.
Player attack.
Player attack.
They attack players.
So watch out.
This is a water bottle.
That's water. He has long hair.
Now we're just saying things.
SteelSeries has been around for just over a decade now, and the Danish manufacturer has made quite a name for itself in the realm of competitive gaming peripherals. You can find SteelSeries logos on pro gamers around the world, from Team Immunity to Navi and Fnatic, and if you're lucky, you might find one or two on your desk as well. SteelSeries has sorted out a pretty sweet little prize pack to give away to one lucky Player Attack viewer. We've got the freshly launched Siberia V2 Heat Orange headset, a Sensei optical mouse, and a quick gaming surface. They are all super sleek. The headset has its own USB sound card, the mouse takes personalization to an all new level, and a dedicated gaming surface has got to be better than dragging your mouse around on that desk. Want one? All you have to do to win your very own SteelSeries prize pack is head to playerattack.com. Follow the links to the SteelSeries competition, fill out your name and contact details, and enter this week's key feature, which is on your screen right now. The competition is open to anyone in Australia and will run all the way up until October 9th, with the winner announced on Player Attack shortly after. For the full terms and conditions, see our website.
Jimmy the Geek here at PAX with Jordan from the Axis of Awesome.
You got a new favorite show? Been watching HBO. You got a new favorite show? Been watching HBO. You got a new favorite show? Been watching HBO. You got a new favorite show? It's called Game of Thrones. Well, I read the fucking books. I said I read the fucking books.
Of the three of you, who is the best gamer?
Depends on what type of gaming. If it's video gaming or role-playing or board games, it's me. If it's crosswords, it's definitely Benny. Lee is probably not good at anything. So,
Hi, Lee, if you're watching.
Yeah.
Who's your fourth in a game of Left 4 Dead?
Oh, that's a big. Do you mean like player or like the three of us are playing and we get someone else? I reckon you got probably my mate Dave, because he's usually really handy with the snacks. So Dave will bring snacks, and which is good for zombie apocalypse.
What sort of games do you play on a weekend? If you're home alone, you're not doing anything over the time, what do you do to unwind?
I'm a big fan of role-playing games. I'm a big Zelda fan. I've got a nice Zelda tattoo.
Oh, can you show us?
Show the people. So I've got a nice. There you go. So I grew up on Zelda, and then I love Mass Effect and things like that. But when I'm busy, it's mostly Candy Crush. I have to be honest with you, a lot of Candy Crush.
Wow. So you're excited? Is there any games you're excited about that are coming out in the near future?
I just went to the Half Brick exhibit, and they've got a new game coming out. I can't remember what it's called, but you're like a monster and you're destroying a city, and you got to like build the monster as it's destroying the city and then blow up all the tanks and all the soldiers. So I'm sorry, Half Brick, I can't remember the name of the game, but it was awesome, and I'll be getting it when it comes out.
This just in, a colossal robotic monster is destroying cities across the globe.
Send in the infantry.
General Mustache has mobilized the military. It seems his weapons have little to no effect on the beast. Katie Hazard is checking in from the battle zone.
Metro City has been declared a war zone.
Is there anyone here, like, you've been around the world doing the musical stand-up comedy thing. How are people reacting to the fact that you're here at the inaugural PAX in Australia?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, people are like, "Oh my God, why are you here?" And the answer is, I just want to be here. I like video games, and I'm here to check everything out, just like everybody else. But yeah, I suppose. But a lot of people come up and say they like the music, and that's really lovely.
On my rage, I am still just a rat in a cage. What if God was one of us? Tell me why'd you have to go make things so complicated? I see the way you're acting like somebody. I know she's playing with me. Well, that's okay, cause I got no self-esteem.
What was your first video game when you were a kid?
Let me think. I got a Game Boy, the original Game Boy, in 1989, which was my first console. Was the original Game Boy with Tetris and Super Mario Land. And then I got an NES later that year when my great-grandfather died and left me and my brother some money, and we bought an NES with it.
Nice to see that the inheritance went to a good place.
And actually, when my brother and I got a Super Nintendo, no, it was Nintendo, when we got a Nintendo 64, and my dad had this scheme that we wouldn't be playing too many video games because we weren't allowed to buy any games. We'd only rent them from the video shop. And that was his plan, to make sure that he could keep it under control. But, after like a couple of months, we just bought games.
Jordan, thanks very much for your time. We'll see you hopefully in the near future. Got anything coming up that you want to talk about?
Just a solo show, a stand-up show called Critically Ashamed. So if you're in Sydney, check it out in September.
If you're an internet native, you probably know the legend of Slender Man. Born on the Something Awful forums in 2009, Slender Man was one of the more successful entries in a competition to design a mythical creature and convince people that it exists. Oh, Slendy's been known to creep around wooded areas and abduct kids. Okay, his story is a little unclear, but he still strikes an imposing figure, especially as he stalks you through the forest in Parsec Productions' horror game, Slender: The Arrival. Building on last year's popular prototype, this new Slender game adds a few more levels, a deeper narrative, and a lot more scares. The gameplay is cleverly framed as found footage. We view everything through a handheld camera, and Slender Man makes his presence known through flickers and distortions. It's disorienting, which only makes it more terrifying. Taking a page out of Amnesia's book, the horror in The Arrival stems from disempowering the player. All you can do is run and hope he doesn't appear in front of you. Slender: The Arrival is a simple but surprisingly effective horror game, and one you should check out if you're sick of what the big guys are calling survival horror these days. Just don't expect a good night's sleep afterwards.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we get excited over the upcoming launch of Disney Infinity. Chad looks at Wolfenstein: The New Order, and we find out the latest from Paradox Interactive. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.